Welcome back. Apologies for the delay in this week's video. Old Clever Clogs over here managed to lose her laptop charger, but I have obviously since found it and we're back on track. Today's video is again going to be questions that people ask about their dogs. And we guaranteed to get some interesting questions today because we're going to look on Reddit. So stay tuned for some questions that people ask about their dogs. You never know, there might be a question that you've perhaps asked about your dog. Okay, first up we have, why does my dog dump out his food and rake it into the corner every time we give him food? I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before, but it's really interesting. You almost see them sort of nosing their food into the corner. And why this happens is basically because the dog is satiated. I really hope I've said that word properly. I think Mr. Sharp, my English high school teacher, would be a bit disappointed if I didn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Sharp is watching these videos, so apologies if I've said it wrong. But what happens here is the dog is basically, he's full. And he's got this resource of the food that he obviously can't put into a Tupperware and pop it into the fridge like we can. So they're doing what dogs do naturally when it comes to having an abundance of resource, and they're trying to store it for the future. It gets a little bit confusing in the dog's brain because the stimulus of an excessive resource triggers the dog to want to bury that resource. Obviously, if the dog's inside when this happens, there's no substrate for the dog to bury the food underneath. So the dog starts using the food to bury the food, which you can see it ends up in this weird kind of behavior loop for the dog. So really the solution to that problem is just to feed the dog less and make sure that any food that the dog doesn't finish is taken away after a couple of minutes. And that's really good practice to do with your dogs. Never ever leave food bowls standing with food in them. First of all, it's unhygienic. Secondly, depending on where you live, it can actually attract pests. We've got a big problem where we live. It's in an agricultural area. So there is already a problem with rats and mice. So any dog food left lying out is just a feast for vermin. So we make sure that there's never any food left lying out, but luckily I have an army of absolute pigs who always finish their food, so that's great. We don't really have a problem there. But like I said, it's good practice not to leave a bowl lying out with food in it. It can create resource guarding issues with the dog, or in a situation like this, the dog's not comfortable leaving the food in the bowl, so they tip the bowl out and then they try to bury the food in a corner. And yeah, it's just not a good situation to have. So give your dog a couple of minutes to eat their food. Don't sit there with a stopwatch and as soon as you hit your predetermined period, go and lunge and grab the bowl from the dog. You're going to cause a problem doing that. But if you can see the dog loses interest in the food, go and take the food away. You can always save it for the next mealtime and reassess how much you're feeding your dog. Perhaps you're feeding your dog too much. So this is a really cool question. Why does my dog show me her toy but not want me to play? What does she want? So we've all experienced this. A dog that's got a toy in their mouth, they come running up to us like they want to engage us in play, and then as soon as we go to take what we assume is the facilitator of this play, which is the toy, the dog bogs off. So it's a bit confusing. It's kind of like, but you invited me to play and then you ran away. Well, the game that the dog is trying to initiate there is not necessarily a game of let's each play with the toy, but it's a game of chase. Dogs love chase games. And in a dog's mind, the best way to initiate a chase game is to get some kind of resource and kind of go and let their peers, so other dogs, or in this case human beings, know that they've got this resource and are kind of like, ooh, catch me if you can. So the dog's not necessarily looking to play with the toy with the owner. They're just looking for some kind of chase game. And some dogs love chase games to the point where they'll actually kind of stalk other dogs to try and elicit a chase response just so that they can have the fun of another dog chasing them. I guess it's kind of like a canine catch or tag game. So here's a really interesting one. Why does my dog vacuum? So before I read the whole post out, I'm pretty much assuming up front that the dog is not getting hold of the vacuum cleaner and vacuuming the rooms, because in my world that would not be a problem at all. That would be amazing. I'd want to find out, how can I get my other dogs to vacuum? but I'm pretty sure that's not what it means. So the post reads, my dog would go to the bottom of the doors or windows and keeps inhaling intensely with his nose and makes some noise like a vacuum cleaner. Honestly, I don't know how I can explain what he does exactly. I love him so much, but it annoys me. Is there a way to stop him doing this? At least I'd like to know what he's trying to do. So we all know that dogs' noses are an incredible way for them to sample the environment around them. And the way that scent travels in the air or moves around the air is that scent actually becomes quite heavy and it tends to sink to lower areas in the rooms. So you can imagine that at the base of doors, especially the crack underneath the door, there's going to be a lot of scent that's accumulated there. And just through trial and error, I guess this dog has learned that if you just sample the edge of those doorways under doors, you get a wealth of information. So I'm guessing that's what's going on here. There might be something on the other side of the door that's particularly appealing to the dog, which causes him to do this behavior anymore. But really what the dog is doing is he's just sampling, and he's found a really nifty, easy way to do this. Why does my dog like to hang out in the hot sun? So for context, this person lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's not unheard of for summer temperatures to crack 120 degrees. And as such, it's just not safe for someone with a fur coat, no matter how short it is, to be outside for long periods of time. Yet that is exactly what my little goofball does. He'll box to go out, which we have to allow so he doesn't poop on the floor, and if we're not careful, he'll just sleep in the middle of the sun. I don't want to test how long he'd do this if we didn't intervene. When we let him in, he often drinks tons of water and his fur is occasionally hot to the touch. Worse still, he often demands to go back out after this. Why does he do this? The first reply to this comment is flippin' hilarious. There's pretty bad language in it, but it does make me giggle. It says, I think your dog might be stupid. To which the owner replies, yeah, I hate to admit it, but he's a moron. A cute, kind, fluffy moron, but a moron nonetheless. So, yeah, this does sound very, very strange. I mean, you would think that in hot temperatures like that, the last thing the dog would want to do is go and lie in the sun. I have a dog who also loves sunbathing, and she's a black dog, so gosh, I can only imagine how hot she must get, but given half an opportunity, she's lying in the sun baking. I guess they would know if it's really uncomfortable for them or if it's unhealthy for them. But with anything like this, where the dog's sort of body health can be affected, it's always best just to get a vet to check them out. I know there's some thyroid conditions that might lower the dog's body temperature, so there could be a physical reason for the dog behaving like this, and best to get it checked out. All dogs have got their little idiosyncrasies, but it's not always the best course of action to go, oh, well, my dog's just a weirdo, or my dog's just a moron. Something like that, I'd definitely get checked out by a vet. So here's another great one. Why does my dog stare into blank walls or into cages? She'll have no expression when it occurs, and it will happen for minutes at a time. And then there's a picture of her staring at the floor. So in the photograph, I can see it looks like it could be an old dog, and this sadly is quite common behavior in old dogs. As they age, they start losing their faculties. They'll often lose their sense of hearing, perhaps their sense of sight becomes compromised, and then of course it is highly possible for them to start with the early stages of senility. And because the way that they're perceiving the world is different to how it's been earlier in their life, it'll often be a little bit confusing for them, and you can almost see them sitting in a situation and almost going, hang on a second, I know what this and this is, but these things are normally associated with this. So it's almost like they're taking a little bit extra time to figure out exactly what is going on. If they're losing their sight, they might have some kind of visual, not necessarily a disturbance, but the visual information that they're getting from their environment might be very different to what they've experienced before, and they're literally just trying to take it in and figure out what the heck's going on around them. And of course, senility. It's very hard for us to understand senility because we're trying to understand it from a non-senile point of view. So we've got the unperceptive perceiver problem going on there. And senility in dogs is quite common. There is recent research that suggests that there's a lot of nutritional supplements that you can give to your dog which not only delay the onset of senility but actually help reverse some of the signs to some extent. A lot of this is related to fatty acids, and something that your vet would be able to chat to you about. I love this one. Why does my dog get upset when my girlfriend and I hug? I don't think it's so much, well, first of all, jealousy is a very complex emotion, and I think dogs, I guess you could argue that it is a form of jealousy, a very basic form of jealousy. Dogs are resource possessive, absolutely, no two ways about that, but it's not the more sort of sophisticated jealousy that us humans would feel. And you'll probably find that the dog is just maybe not getting upset, but the dog is just maybe getting excited by the heightened emotion. And it could be also a component of learned behavior there. I know I always joke with my boyfriend, with Joni, when we have a hug, she's once or twice put her head sort of close to being in between us, and we've made a joke about it, and it's now become a thing. That whenever we have a hug, she comes and pushes her head in, she makes a little, we call it a bony sami, and it's just become a little habit, a little fun ritual that we perform. So you might find that the poster's dog in this question, it's developed along those same lines. It might have initially been fueled by just heightened excitement, and now there's a component of learned behavior that's come into it. Why does my dog bark as soon as she gets out? It's a really simple answer to this one. 'Cause dog. Because life is great. When you're a dog, life is great. You run. When you're happy, you woo-woo. You let the world know that you're there. You let the members of your family know that the world is out there. This is what dogs do. Obviously, standing there barking excessively for minutes and minutes at a time is a different story, but an exuberant woo-woo kind of bark is totally normal dog behavior. And if it's going to be creating a problem, then just manage the environment so that the dog doesn't do their woo-woo bark at times that are going to be disturbing to your neighbors. This one really resonates with me. Why does my dog sneeze directly in my face when I cuddle with him 100% of the time? I cannot tell you how many dogs have sneezed directly into my mouth and my eyes over the years. And I know it's going to sound weird, but I'm quite flattered when it happens. I really am. So one of the physiological responses that dogs have when they get excited is, you'll see they'll often, we tend to call it a smile. They'll lift their lips and they'll sneeze and sort of shake their head at the same time. And that's just a physiological response to high levels of excitement or high levels of arousal. And when we talk about arousal, we mean emotional arousal. And so the sneeze, unfortunately, is part and parcel of that. I've learned over the years the dogs that are likely to do that to me, I aim them away while they're in that excited state. And once they've calmed down a little bit, then I can interact with them more face to face. But while there's snot flying everywhere, just aim the dog away from you, or you can get one of those little face masks, I don't know. And one more quick one. Why does my dog only eat her food at night? Two reasons. First reason is your dog is probably getting too much food. We generally recommend that a dog's daily food portion be divided into at least 2 meals, one in the morning, one at night. A lot of the times dogs will only eat the night meal because they're getting too much food. And dogs, just like us, have a circadian rhythm which is hormonally influenced, which tells our body when it's morning, when it's night, etc., etc. Dogs are crepuscular, which means that they're naturally active at dawn and dusk. And if you think about it, it just makes a lot more sense to be eating at night before you settle down for the evening. This might also be temperature related. I know some of my dogs, they will eat their breakfast, yeah, they'll finish it, but come dinner time, they'll wolf it down, and that is because of temperature. When it's really hot, the dogs are less inclined to want to eat. In winter, breakfast, dinner appetite makes no difference, but in summer, I've definitely noticed my dogs they have a much better appetite at night time. And the last question, why does my dog suffocate himself by sleeping between my wife and I, or by sticking his head under couch pillows? Again, a really simple answer to this question, 'cause dog. Dogs are really cool like that. I mean, they're so sort of close to you is nice, so therefore kind of like on top of you, wedging myself in here has got to be better. You've got to love that about them. It's really not a problem. If the dog is not able to breathe, he'll sort himself out. And it's not really a problem. It's more us looking at the situation and going, oh, that can't be comfortable. If it wasn't comfy for the dog, they wouldn't be doing it. You obviously want to make sure that the behavior is not motivated by any kind of fear. If there's a storm or fireworks or something like that, sometimes the dogs might choose that as an option to kind of bury their head underneath something. But by the sounds of things, this dog is just being super over-the-top affectionate. And he's probably got a bit of a giggle out of this behavior in the past. And dogs like it when we laugh, because they've learned early on in their lives that when human beings laugh, it's often coupled with good things for the dog. Our laugh becomes a conditioned reinforcer to the dog. You laugh at something, the dog will repeat the behavior that produced the laugh. So there you have it, some more why does my dog questions. They're always fun for me to answer because they're guaranteed to be varied and they help touch on a lot of different topics. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon. Please don't rely on our Facebook group as a good reminder for when we have a new video uploaded, purely because I suck at technology and I realized the last few video reminders that I posted, I somehow managed to mess up the link. I don't even know. So if you want to make sure you want to have a foolproof system for that, click subscribe, click the bell icon, and I think there's an option to click all notifications. I'm not really sure, but let YouTube do that. Don't rely on me, because this is not going to end well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, share with your friends and family. There's always going to be something that somebody finds interesting. It might help them with a problem or a question that they have about their dog. So make sure to let them know about our channel so they can also gain some value from watching our videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.